Right, guys, during all of my playtesting I've noticed several things, but there are two that are kind of bothering me because I see so many people using these armours because previous builds they potentially were OP, particularly one of them with the Devastator. However, yeah, these armours are now a trap. One I can prove completely mathematically, the other is required playtesting, which you just have to keep an eye on in the background for me to show. Now, before I get into this, I just need to show that, or say, really, that if you see a grey number, that means you're hitting an armoured point. If you get a white number, that is just your base damage with X amount of buff or items that you have on you. A yellow number is a crit, a small red number is a weak point, and a big red number is a weak point crit. Sorry about the quality of the images, it's kind of hard to zoom in to show exactly what I mean, and the reticule often does get in the way. With that in mind, I found out that with zero buffs or anything else, despite the fact that the weapon is marked down as doing 375 damage, I found that my average white number hit, which is just my normal hit, was 431. Now this is times 1.15 of the 375. What that means, I don't know. And I got a normal weak point hit, so non-crit, of 1114. I then tested this with void armor on, so previously no armor, no rings, no nothing. With void armor it was literally just void armor, so no rings or anything. And my average hit white number was 496, and my average weak point hit was 1392. I then tested this again with hunter armor, which is plus 50% weak point damage. My average white number hit was immediately back down to 431. Obviously I'm not buffing my base damage, but I was expecting on my weak points to do a stupid amount. 1367. This is a negligible, if what somewhat laughable difference in damage of just 25. But for a lot of people out there that want to go for big damage numbers, have a decent accuracy, etc, etc, they'd often use Hunter's armor for that 50% weak point damage. You're doing less damage, not only in your weak point hit, but also in your overall hit. I mean, I'm assuming you're still human and at some point you will miss, but regardless, your normal hit, your crits, your armoured hits, and even your weak point hits with something like void armour will do more. And this will be accentuated more so when you start adding jewellery to the mix. It will no longer be just 25 damage. It can go up to, from what I have seen, roughly 18%, which at minimum, depending on your build, is about 250 damage, and this can go up to about 500 damage. So there is a large gap between a lot of these armors, and that's just using void armor, which is a 25% buff that, depending on how much damage you take, isn't active all of the time. So read into that what you will. You've got osseous armor, which offers up to a 35% buff. Most people that would use something like a crossbow or a sniper rifle would be using Slayer, which is 30% buff on reload, which being the type of weapon that you would typically use with that, that's basically up all the damn time. My point is, Hunter's armor not as good as it looks on paper. In reality, it's pretty damn bleh. So on to the next armour that I believe to be a bit of a trap, and this is the beloved, sorry to say, back to shit on your parade, the Bandit armour. Once upon a time, this armour with something like the Devastator was devastating. Now, it's potentially one of the, well, not even one of the worst, it potentially is the worst armour in the game. Mathematically speaking, of course. Now some of you, if you've seen a few of my videos already, might remember this equation. This is for Chicago Typewriter, which I'm going to use as a staple to prove why Bandit Armour is neat good. Now, the way in which I'm going to work this is quite simply by just equating that 30% probability into a magazine, which is simply done by just increasing the magazine pool by 30%. So it's got a 30% chance per bullet. You're looking at around a 25% chance for it to proc at least a quarter of the time through Chicago Typewriter's magazine. Just to play nice, we're just going to keep it at 30%, because why not? Which gives us this. It's increased our damage from 2,880 to 3,744. That's potentially with 30 more bullets, proccing 30% of the time, etc, etc. It would make more sense if it was a 100 magazine, but you know, we're giving it the benefit of the doubt. Now this has the possibility to go up or down. 30% is most likely to go down a lot more. So I have compared it against a lot of the average rapid fire weapon armours. Bandit puts you at roughly, it can go up and down because it's probability based, 3,744. Void Armour, a flat 25% buff to your damage, is 3,600. Osseous Armour, a flat 35% to your damage, is 3,888. And then Radiant, putting you, as long as you've got the max critical chance on the trait anyway, would mean roughly half of your damage per magazine will crit at an average of 95%. So if half of your damage crits at 95%, that's 5,688. The only one that Bandit Armour could potentially be would be Void, but I'd rather take the consistent damage over a fluctuation in damage. Anyway, read into that what you will. I'm just going to read into it that Hunters and Bandit is nyeh. In the meantime, have fun, good luck, and don't die. It's bad for the health.